I know for the previous two sessions it has been repeated relentlessly that the book God Alone is a very powerful and beneficial book. And I won't go into too much details of how much beneficial it is. You will have to read it and know it for your own selves. But as Master Paramahansa Yogananda ji used to say, that he put his vibrations in the autobiography of a yogi. Sister Gyan Mata, when you read her letters, you can feel her vibration and light shining through it. Paramahansa Yogananda ji used to say that even though Sister Gyan Mata left her body and merged into the watchful state, she left behind spiritual footprints of sweetness which will guide devotees for ages and ages to come. And we are being guided by them. So, God alone. Sister Gyanmata's path was the path of wisdom, as Yogananda ji used to say. And what is the path of wisdom? Many of us have gone through the teachings of Raja Yoga. There we learn about Gyan Yoga, that we try to go through the process. One of the methods of it is called Neti Neti. Not this, not that. We go through different experiences and decide this is not it, this is not the truth. So that is one of the ways you practice Jnana Yoga. So when you go about doing that, eventually you come to the conclusion of Neti Neti that nothing this or nothing that will work, only God alone will work. So in essence, you can say God alone is the essence of Jnana Yoga, where you find out that nothing will ever work if it is not coming from God, because that is the only truth. Everything else is duality. And that is what Sister Gyanmata also followed in her own life when she realized that was the goal. So we say God alone, and we will be discussing a few things which she said I will share for some time, then Brahmachari Jamalji will share. One thing what I was thinking about is when we say God alone, what does the word God mean for each of us? Everyone will have different definitions, different conceptions of who God is for them, how God manifests for them. Being infinite and infinitesimal, God is everything to everyone in a way. We can see God in whichever form is dearest to us or without form, if that is the way we aspire to find God. So, even for this thing, Yogananda ji and Sister Gyanmata, both of them affirmed and reinforced that God is and can be defined as a vibration which spans the whole creation, a vibration which was before the creation and in the creation. And another way was one of the eight aspects through which God manifests for us, the chief being Satchitananda, ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. So that, if you may, can take as the alone, God alone part for yourself and aim towards that. That God alone is joy alone, is ever new joy alone, which is we should aim for in everything we do, within, without, in every experience. To all whom we meet, everywhere we can see that divine experience in them. So that is one way we can practice that. One of the things I wanted to share today, focusing on Sister Gyanmata's life and from the book God Alone, was her approach, commitment to the truth, and attunement to the Guru. There's a lot we can learn from that. In a way, it is an example of perfect attunement to the Guru because Yogananda ji acknowledged that she was her most advanced woman disciple and Rajarsi Janakananda was his most advanced male disciple. You know what was common between those two disciples? Master used to say about Rajarsi Janakananda that what separated him with most disciples was he always used to listen. He was always receptive to what the Guru was saying. If you observe, study uh, Sister Gyanmata's incarnation, she was also the one who always listened, not just physically, but inwardly, attuning herself to her Guru's vibrations, consciousness, every second of her life, every moment of her life. There is a exchange between Yogananda ji and the Gyan Mata, where Yogananda ji was coming after some time to meet, and yeah, he met Gyan Mataji and said, "You, I am a stranger to you." Yogananda ji said this to Sister Gyanmata, "I am a stranger to you." And Sister Gyanmata actually, that for that one line, she just meditated, trying to understand what did that mean. She wanted to understand truly what her guru was trying to tell her. And then this is what she tells in the letter to Yogananda ji, that you said this to me, and I realized you said this to me because you had come after some time and I didn't come down to meet you. The reason I didn't come down to meet you was I was not feeling well, and I didn't want you to see me in that way, and that is why I didn't come down. And she goes on to explain that it is not in her nature to actively seek any attention. Only when other people are done with their attentions, she likes to get into the picture. She likes to remain in the background, which is what she said in the letter. And she said it was a mistake on her part to not come down. And she apologized and said it will never happen again. All this from a single statement of Master, which said her, "I am a stranger to you." Now, who would have guessed what that statement would have mean for that disciple, unless they had a deep attunement to the Guru? And the not only the attunement, but also the desire to perfect that attunement, to find out the truth behind it, the consciousness behind it, and follow it to the very last letter, which is what she did, because that was her commitment to truth, loyalty to the Guru, and truth, not only the truth which we see as the superficial kind of truth, but the truth, the divine truth behind everything, which is God alone. But again, there it is not a surface thing. We have to go within ourselves to experience it within everything else. Another way I would like to share is Gyan Mata ji used to, when from the moment she first met Yogananda ji, she wanted to be in perfect attunement, perfect connection with the master. So one of the practices which she did and ended up suggesting to others was, she said she would imagine, in whenever she wanted to feel master's presence, she would imagine him praying for her, days and days at end. And he had prayed for her when the first time they met, and she would use that experience and use it to remember master and connect. This is the same practice which we learn, also known as practicing the presence of God, practicing the presence of Guru in whatever you do. And for me personally, it is a very powerful method of always trying to keep my consciousness uplifted, in tune, because that way we can have our actions, our consciousness, our thoughts attuned to the divine, attuned to God's will. Because when we are sync with God's will, things flow much more smoother for us. But if we are off sync with God's will, things can go not smooth, and we can feel that something is off and we are confused. No one likes to be confused. I certainly do not. And that is why trying to attune everything you do, every thought, say for example you are drinking water, share it with God. You're eating food, offer it to God, offer it to Guru. You're reading something, read it with the consciousness of God. When you do that, everything happens on a different level. Normally it is conscious, but if you bring God's presence, it becomes super conscious, and that will fasten your spiritual growth and also help you see the truth quickly. Another thing which I wanted to share was the connection which Sister Gyanmata had with Yogananda ji, the attunement. It was not an outward kind of attunement. They didn't speak with each other that often outwardly. They just felt in their heart what was going on inwardly, and which is what we all can aspire to do also. Yes, in the previous sessions, Vineet, Premdas, Devashiji also covered the thing that Sister Gyanmata underwent a lot of physical suffering in the past few years of her life. And Yoganandaji made her stay in that body, even though it was God's will that she would leave it sooner. But he made her stay so that she could finish off not only her karma, but others' karma she took on herself, and finish it off so that she could become finally liberated and merge in the infinite spirit. That that is one thing we have learned. But another thing which Yogananda ji wrote to her in one of the letters, or Gyan Mataji acknowledged in her replies, was that she said, I know you expect more from me than others, and I understand why you do that, but that does not mean I will be able to do it. So that was humility in accepting that the Guru was expecting more from her, and also humility in accepting that she could err. But she said, without your support, I will always err. With your support, I will always succeed. So that faith and loyalty to the Guru's teachings, words, following it to the last letter, that is how she got free in the end. And another lesson we can get from that letter is the Guru will give you more challenges if you're sincere, and it can be tough, and you will fall, you will slip. Doesn't have to be the final thing. Once you slip, once you fall, you get back again, try again to tune in. It may not be perfect, but no one is perfect, and we have to try our best irrespective of what the circumstances are. If you are sincere, there will be no challenge which will come to you without the strength to overcome it too. God won't give you anything. This is again Sister Gyanmata's words. God won't give you anything which you won't have the ability to overcome, because that is how you will grow. Just a little bit more you will have to push and find that strength within yourself, and you can overcome it. Present circumstances for all of us throughout this world are difficult, challenging, painful even. And I have deep compassion because that is how we, all of us who come to this path, eventually feel the oneness with all of us. And the pain of others is our own pain. We don't have to be affected by it deeply, but we surely can help it out. How? The deep compassion which we feel, we can offer it to the divine. Again, practicing the presence of Guru in everything. We can offer it to the divine, connect with that conscious connection of the Gurus, of God. Feel that blessing flowing to you, not just for your own sake, so that you can be a pure, egoless channel for it to flow to everyone else who you meet or who you feel needed. So, with that, I would say it's not wrong to be compassionate. Let that compassion be a medium through which you can connect to a higher source, and let that higher source, God, Gurus, flow through you so that you can serve God within, God without, God alone. And with that, I will ask Jamalji to share more. Thank you.
Thanks, Ramesh. Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with all of you. This is a beautiful topic, and I add my testimony to those who have gone before me. It is a beautiful book, and it is well worth reading. I want to share a little bit personally on that. When I first came on the path, I came in 2002, probably in 2003, I read that book. I actually can't remember whether I read the whole thing or whether I just read some of it. And I talked to my friend at that time from Ananda, who I was living with. I said, I don't know if this book's for me. I felt Sister Gyanamata was so strict. I told him, I think, she reminded me of the nuns that are in Catholic schools that will hit your knuckles with a ruler if you do something bad. And I said, I don't know if I can kind of tune into this. She seems kind of strict. I just don't know. And he said, whoa, careful, careful, careful. And the way he said that, I thought, maybe I'm sure there's something more there, and there must be something off with me. But I didn't think about it again for many years. And then, years go on, and several times I must have read the book. But this time I tried to pick it up and read it. And honestly, I couldn't almost. That my eyes were just filling with tears because of Sister Gyanamata's discipleship, her attunement with Master, that I could feel it. And it is so sacred their bond. It's more precious than anything we can ever imagine. And, you know, honestly, I decided to become a monk in this incarnation. That when I read that book, God Alone, I think, this is the love that I want. This kind of love that Master had for Sister Gyanamata, that Sister Gyanamata had for Master, that it's pure, it's true, it's deep, it's real. It demolishes boundaries like time and space, where you see Sister Gyanamata following Master mentally from city to city, and even writing to him, when you said such and such in your lecture, and she wasn't there, she was just following him mentally. God only knows how she did this. I do know, but and it's this power of love, and it's the power of attunement, and the power of Master to be able to take us deep within our own selves, into our own center, where then we can connect to other people's own center. And it's so sacred to feel that. I also listened to Vineet and Primdas and Devashiji, their last lectures here since I was in seclusion, just to tune into what they said. And I believe it was Vineet reading Master's words of how he shed tears when she left the body. And that was so meaningful, because you think of a Master that just is kind of above it all. And Master could be, but he was also very real, very human, very much in this world as well, and was here to make it a better place. And so now, when I read a book like that, I'm not so much interested in the intellectual concepts. I'm interested in the feeling that she had for Master, and the feeling of the vibrations that Master would give to her, that these feelings are eternal. And it's by tuning into these feelings that we can tune into the great saints. And they're always here with us. And we can tune into them here and now and go deep. You know, something that's so fascinating, Sister Gyanamata's first meeting with Master, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but after that, she didn't see him for 5 years. Imagine that. She had one meeting, and she knew, this is my guru. And in that one meeting, he gave her the power to hear the sound of Om. And then she didn't physically see him again for 5 years. That's, I mean, I know I would go off course if I didn't have something to tune into for 5 years. And she was living almost in a completely different age. I mean, almost Kali Yuga. There was no internet. I guess there was telephones, but it doesn't sound like they called each other on the phone for those 5 years. I don't know at that point. I'd have to do some history lessons of how much of Master's teachings were in print. You know, what the point I'm trying to make is she stayed in tune on the inside. And another important point here is that when Swami Kriyananda left his body, I thought, okay, you know, before I literally could write emails to God, and God would tell me, yeah, go left, go right. And suddenly God disappeared. And now what do I do? And over these years that Swamiji's not been in the body, I've had to learn, like Sister Gyanamata had that already from the beginning. How do I tune in to these great saints, to the masters on the inside? And yes, we all have to read the books and listen to the recordings and all of that, and it's deeply important. But there's a level beyond that, and that is going on the inside and listening very, very sensitively and wanting the masters to guide us. Let's face it, there's some times where we feel like, I want to do what I want to do. And that's where we get ourselves into so much trouble. But you read Sister Gyanamata's life, she just didn't have that attitude. And let's also face it, she was already a Jivan Mukta. And so she knew that this was her last incarnation and that she was again coming to Master to make her a perfected being. I believe Swami Kriyananda the same way. So his first words when he shows up are, Swamiji's, I want to be your disciple. Because he'd already been through this with Master, who knows how many times. And we don't know where we are. I mean, I feel like a worm compared to these souls on this whole level of spiritual evolution. And we don't know where we are, but it doesn't matter. All that matters is, can we right now open our hearts and want to be more deeply in tune with the masters? Back to that first meeting that they had, there's an episode, if you've read the book, you know it. Master did perform some kind of miracle where he heard God tell him, lay it down for sister. And there was this salt shaker that every time you push it down, it would pop back up. He just made it stay down, and all the guests at the table were amazed. Okay. Later, Sister Ganamata performed the same miracle, but afterwards, when questioned, she said it wasn't me, it was Master, that I was still in tune with him. And it was his power doing it through me, and then I knew that I would be with him. I mean, she must have already known that she would be with him. I believe their relationship is something so deep that we can just barely comprehend it, of a guru and disciple that have been having that relationship for incarnation after incarnation, first to achieve that state of Jivan Mukta, and then again and again, who knows how many times, to become completely liberated and become a Siddha. Now, it's important for us to feel that we too, that we can make it, that we can become Jivan Muktas in this lifetime. And that no matter what suffering that we go through, no matter if we feel like this is our first time signing up with this lineage of masters, or that we know we've been with them for a long, long time, and we might feel like the worst disciple in the world, wondering how many incarnations that I've been trying this and they've been trying to help me. No matter where we are on this spectrum, we have to have this feeling that we can make it. And often people emphasize Sister Ganamata's life as one of suffering. I mean, Master himself said that God tested her for 20 years, and that, but God was still pleased that he chose to love her. In the Christian tradition of old, in order to become a saint, you had to prove, well, I suffered this much, I had this much suffering. Swamiji and Master have really brought a new ray, where in the past, and this is in the Festival of Light, in the past, the coin of redemption was man's suffering. That you showed how much you suffered, and then you could, say, okay, now I have the right to be a saint. But what Master's bringing in this particular ray, especially through Swamiji, is that we don't have to focus on the suffering. That the coin of our redemption now can be joy, can be our joy in God. And Swamiji has brought us the Nayaswami order, where this is what we're focusing on. That we're not focusing on renunciation as, here's what I don't do. That we're focusing on, here's what I do. And here's what I am going to bring into my life. That it's samadhi affirming, Swamiji would say, rather than I don't do this, I don't do that. And we can take that exact same analogy for suffering. Yes, suffering is going to come. I don't think I know I've never met another human being who had as many illnesses and diseases as Swami Kriyananda. And I'm praying one day, I haven't read Miriam's book yet, I'd love to get to that one of his doctors will just write a book about that. I mean, every time I'd come to him, he'd say, oh, I have this bone spur this time, or, oh, it's just a little bit of cancer. It's all right, or I have this, I have that. I know also that Swami Kriyananda, just like Sister Gyanamata, was taking that suffering upon himself for those that were close to him. And he said, Swamiji, that it can't be done any other way. That if there's physical karma on this plane, one way or another, it has to be paid. And so he was willing to take that on. But here's the deal. He was just smiling, and he didn't know he was going through all this, because he could rise his consciousness way, way above the physical body and all of this pain. And it was absolutely no big deal. Now, as beginners, we have to learn how to practice Kriya and how to learn how to withdraw the life force so that if the physical body is having a little bit of suffering, that we can rise above it. And Swamiji would also say physical suffering, that's nothing compared to the emotional suffering that we go through, the mental suffering that we go through. And again, coming back to Sister Gyanamata, in her letters to Master, you see she would read lots and lots of books about saints before she met Master. She goes on to say that she read those books because she was wanting the consciousness of the saints. But so when she met Master, she said, I've read all these books, all the wise men everywhere, they say the purpose of life is finding God. But she said, Master, you've finally given us the how. How do I find God? That you've clarified it, unlike any other teacher so far. That you do step 1, step 2, step 3, and here's the how of finding God. So take all of these teachings very seriously. Hong Sao energization, I won't go through the list. Today's not a class on that, but take it seriously. And then again, remember, even if you're doing all those techniques and you're checking off your little checkbox that I did so much Om technique today or whatever, remember the essence. The most powerful thing is attunement to the Guru. And that he's the one who's doing these techniques through you. He's the one who will transform your life, and he will. And do not doubt his power to transform your life. His power is beyond our comprehension. It's beyond this world. It's super powerful. But we have to let him in. We have to open our hearts. We have to invite him. And we have to get good at that. That we have to learn how to want to continually invite, until it becomes every moment of the day where the mind runs and thinks, I want to do X, Y, Z. And we think, well, Swamiji, is that what you want me to do? And Swamiji says, yes, all right. And even that, it's a feeling that, okay, all right, I'm doing this with Swami. Cooperation with grace. And we have to feel this cooperation and begin to live in this cooperation. And there's nothing like it. It transforms our lives. And in the end, I promise you, no matter what's going on in this crazy world, life becomes beautiful, beautiful, so beautiful you can't even imagine. I'm not allowed to talk about that anymore. Our time is up. So let's close with a healing prayer and let's channel Sister Gyanamata. Let's ask her to come into us now, always, as one of the great saints of this ray of Master. And let's ask that we may be instruments for her blessings into this world. Let's now visualize all of India, this entire planet, filled with Master's light. Let's pray. Divine Mother, Sister Gyanamata, O great Master, thou art omnipresent, thou art in all nature. Manifest thy healing presence in all bodies, all minds, and all souls. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you all. It's been a great joy. I look forward to next time.